Hey, this is Amazing React, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are reacting to a brand new video. It is titled How Megami Completely Failed Jujutsu Kaisen. So, when it comes to Jujutsu Kaisen, I love Jujutsu Kaisen. I watched the anime. I even read the manga all the way up to the ending. I didn't start, I think they got like a spin-off thing called like Modulo or something like that. I didn't watch that. But I did read the manga all the way up to the end. So I know how the Jujutsu Kaisen original story, I know how it ends. I do know the stuff that people say about Megami, which some of it is unwarranted, but it is what it is. Though I was a little let down by him as a character, but let's see what this person has to say. And this video, I will have a link in the description.
It is time to talk about the wasted potential of Megami Fushiguro.
If I mean, if you didn't tell by the title, this person is definitely pissed off at Megami.
This was the secondary main character or deuteragonist of the entire series, and I feel like he got completely shafted, and today I want to go into that. And a lot of people were confused the last video when I said I thought the final chapter was excellent because I do like the final.
Now, when it comes to this, I did think that I thought Jujutsu Kaisen was good. I didn't have any complaints. The only thing when it comes to Megami, when I say I was let down, I thought he was gonna do a little bit more in the story, or at least even if they didn't rescue him, him doing something to kind of help himself be rescued. But yeah, I could kind of understand people gripes when it comes to Megami. But overall, I love the manga. I thought it was good.
Chapter, but the actual ending for the entire series, I think is just objectively mid at best. And I think mid is being generous because really it is far closer to below average. But the main reason I want to talk about Megami today is because
I think the ending was mid. Yeah, I think the ending of it was kind of mid. But for the most part, Gojo versus Sukuna is probably the best written anime fight I've seen. Like that, and that's even without them having like the actual anime out to actually see it in motion. But I do think Sukuna versus Gojo was excellent. My favorite character is Yuta. I think his fight versus Sukuna was excellent. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Jujutsu Kaisen or read the manga, you might need to click off this video because yeah, it's gonna be spoiler heavy.
Megami's character felt like it was building up to a moment where he would finally realize he has to live for himself, but that never really happened. Instead, he decides to live for somebody else one more time, and I feel like that is a tragedy for his character. And for us to dig into why, we have to go back to Hidden Inventory and talk about Toji, because Hidden Inventory is in many ways a Megami backstory as much as it is a Gojo one. The three
Oh,
most
he's on the
character
end, but
moments
the
in Hidden
end.
Inventory are that Gojo becomes a disillusioned Jujutsu society as a
Mm-hmm.
whole. Toji comes to the realization that he loves his son, and Geto stares into a slug's eyes, and the slug stares back. But the thing with Toji is that Toji has been lying to himself the entire time. He thinks that selling Megami to the Zenin family will give him a better life. But when the time comes and Toji is on the verge of death, standing in front of Gojo, all he can think of is his family, and in the most Toji way possible, he asks Gojo to take care of his son. And Gojo, who at this point has solidified himself as the strongest sorcerer of the modern age and has become bitter towards the way Jujutsu Society is set up, fundamentally accepts Toji's request. He goes out to find Megami and
Now, one thing I will say is, I don't think it didn't seem like Gojo like taught Megami enough. Like I feel like Megami should have been more advanced in his techniques than he was at the beginning of the story.
almost spills the beans that he may have purpled his dad before taking him under his wing as his first student. And we find that even from a young age, Megami thought his father didn't care about him, and this is a negative thought process he would carry with him for years. And even though Gojo tried to tell Megami upon their first meeting that he is the one who killed his dad, Megami kind of just brushes him off. And Gojo goes seemingly years without ever attempting to tell Megami the truth again, and this is pretty
And I also don't like the way that they revealed that Gojo was the one that killed his dad. I don't know. It just felt like it was toward the end. They was like, "Yo, we still got this plot thread. Let's just wrap it up." And they just told him. And his reaction, I don't know. I didn't like that reaction from him. Considering the fact of if you watch Shibuya, you seen like when he realized it was Megami, that was enough to stop him from well at least take over the his body and stop him from like going after Megumi. Then to see Megumi just really didn't care. I don't know. That was kind of weird. I didn't like that.
Line with Gojo's avoidant personality. He isn't exactly an open book, and when he does eventually tell Megumi, it is through a letter after he is conveniently dead and doesn't have to deal with any fallout. But why is this so relevant to Megumi's character arc? Well, it's because Megumi carries this mindset into the main series that he himself is worthless and his only value is living for other people. While Gojo and Toji gave Megumi his freedom to choose his own life, and that's really all Toji ever wanted for him. And that is why during Shibuya, Toji comes back to life for a split second to ask Megumi one question before he happily dies again, knowing his son is okay.
And yeah, that's what I was saying. Like it seemed like it meant more. I guess it meant more to Toji, even though it's ironic because Toji is the one that gave him up. But it seemed like the relationship meant more to Toji than it did Fushiguro, which you would think it would be opposite.
And Megami is left having no idea who he was talking to, but we get the first steps towards him discovering the truth about his father. And this entire subplot of Megami's self hatred and inability to see value in himself comes to a head when Sukuna takes advantage of his emotional state and rips his freedom away entirely. And Megami is left with absolutely no agency, and all he can do is watch the one person he cares about get murdered by his own hands. When I initially read this, I thought that this was pretty good setup for what was going to be the conclusion to Megami's arc. At this point in the story, Gojo seemed to be the only one that had any chance of getting Megami back, and even if Gojo died saving him, I assumed they would have at least one.
Again, this was one of the best fights. Like I love this fight. I probably read that fight probably like 3 or 4 times. And maybe even more than that. Just that little section of the manga.
Conversation, with Megami discovering he can't tie his entire self worth to someone or something external, and that, like Gojo and Yuji, he can find value in himself while also helping those around him. But we all know that didn't happen because Gojo got his ass chopped in half off screen and then passed major plot reveal duty down the chain to Shoko. And even though Megami got submerged in a cursed energy ritual bath that suppressed his soul even further, him having zero reaction to the guy who practically raised him dying in front of him, it just feels wrong, at
Yeah,
least
it
to
felt
me.
weird to
And
me
when
too.
Yuji does wind up
I
getting
agree
rid
with
of him
that.
in Yuta's domain, we see Megami say something for the first time in around 40 chapters. He is completely tapped out and lets Yuta get chopped in half too.
RP to my god. Well, he didn't die, but man, that was crushing for me when Yuta. I feel like Yuta didn't do enough. Well, I ain't gonna say he didn't do enough. Like I thought he was gonna come back at least as like normal Yuta, like after that slash. Cause I thought he was just gonna heal himself. Cause it feel like even with that, it felt like they were building up something with Rika that was a little bit more than her just doing like reverse curse technique on him, and that's the reason why he survived. It felt like they were building up something like I don't know. I could go on the whole spiel about what it felt like it was something more that they were doing with that character, and then they just kind of was just like, nah. The whole thing with Rika was just she kept feeding him curse, positive curse energy and stuff, so he could heal.
Too. So Megami is just offered an option to be saved, and Sukuna even mentions this later that he outright refused his friends and was aware and willing to let them die. And even though the bath is supposed to be the explanation,
I didn't even
it just makes
I didn't even think of that. Like yeah, see I was the whole thing with me. I was thinking, why? Like, even if it's so, like he killed your sister, he killed your mentor. I was like, if I was Megami, I would want to get revenge, and that's why I was a little disappointed. But I didn't even think about that. Like Sukuna did say, like, yo, he knew you guys were about to die, and he knew if y'all would have, if he would have took your hand, y'all would have saved him. And he was just like, nah. He was just like, nah. Like, yeah, Megami, you trash.
makes Megami look terrible. And it's especially bad when at the end of the series, he learns basically nothing from this entire experience. When we first meet Megami, he is living for Sumiki, and the moment she dies, gives up on life entirely. And when he talks to Yuji for the second time in chapter 266, Yuji tells Megami he understands his pain, and he will not think less of him if he chooses to die. And when I first read this, I figured this was Megami's moment of truth where he must make the decision to live for himself and not something external. But instead of finding value in himself and trying to live a proper life, he just doubles down on living for somebody else one more time. And I know this is just my
All
interpretation,
the
but I really
Angel
think
Girl.
this goes against everything this character was building up to in the story. He feels like he is almost the exact same character we saw at the beginning with the minimal character growth, and the reason it stings more for me
That's another thing too. Like I just saw when him with the little fist. I thought we were gonna get to see his domain. Like we didn't get to see a complete domain, like not once. And then the fact that he even had a domain, if it really felt like they were building Megami up to be, you know, that guy, but he definitely wasn't.
Is because there were story threads set up here just for Megami that feel like they got zero
He's
payoff.
saying
We
exactly what
don't
I was
even get
just
to
saying.
see his reaction to finding out about who his father was because it seems like Shoko told him since she was at Sumiki's grave with him. And his reaction to Gojo's letter definitely seems like he knows what happened, which begs the question why we never got to see this for one of the most built up characters in the series. And even though they give us a one off line that he has to apologize to everyone, he seems like he just doesn't care that his adoptive dad died for him and everyone else risked their life to get him back. And I can't help but feel this makes Megami's character look like an ungrateful bum who is constantly in a state of self pity. And if something ever happens to
He
you,
going in on
just give
Megami.
up on life all over again because he never got over the self loathing he's had since childhood. And given everything Gojo did for him, including giving his life, this puts Megami on the certified list of absolute trash lord, a garbage banana character for me. And
I don't know if I'm going this heavy on it, but yes, it was some. Yeah, yeah, it definitely. What's the name of this video? Oh, completely fair. I thought it was something that had something to do with like, yeah, it was wasted potential. But yeah,
And I want to talk about the power scaling as well, because Megami was set up as having the incredible potential to surpass Gojo and Yuji, who has equal potential to Ryoma and Sukuna. And usually in a story, when a villain says you're a waste of talent, they aren't supposed to be 100% correct at the end of the series, because Megami is a total waste of talent.
I
This guy's
agree.
contribution in the final arc was a puddle. And there was a point in time that many of us truly thought that Megami was not only going to finish his domain Chimera Shadow
That's what
Garden,
I'm
but
saying.
actually use an open barrier.
I thought that too. I thought like he was gonna do something more with the incomplete domain. At least not do like a closed barrier. I thought it was gonna be like an open barrier, like he was just like Sukuna or something like that. But nah, Megami was like, nah, I won't develop,
Now, an open barrier may have been a bit too much to ask for, but the true power of Ten Shadows
or at least get control of Maharagi. I thought he was at least gonna do that.
always felt like it was in Maharaga in Megami's domain. And once Sukuna took over Megami's body and started using Ten Shadows, there were many complaining already that Sukuna was overshadowing Megami's own development with his curse technique. But this was actually a bogus complaint because in reality, Megami had no development to overshadow because his fight with Reggie was his peak. Maybe one day the character of Megami will gain access to his own Maharaga because the way Sukuna talks about Ten Shadows makes it sound like he and Megami use separate versions, but this is a hypothetical Megami that we will never get to see unless Jujutsu Kaisen actually gets a part.
Yeah. Hypothetical Megami is a whole lot stronger. What like in my version of Megami where I thought he was gonna go, he was a whole lot stronger than what he ended up becoming at the end of this.
Two, which to be honest, I don't ever see happening. And the Megami we are instead left.
Oh, yeah, this is definitely an old video because they got a part two. Or they came out, but I think it's years in the future. And it got something to do with aliens or something. I don't know. If they animated, I'll watch it, but I don't think I'm gonna go back and read it unless it's just something like crazy happen.
Left with simply has a dog, a gnarly scar he earned by getting his shit kicked in, and an incredibly questionable motivation for being alive. Megami was one of my favorite characters for the longest time in this series, and I bought into the hype of Potential Man, but instead we get someone who is somehow more of a bum than his freeloader dad. And maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. After all, this is just my opinion, but from the discourse I've seen since the series concluded, most people are at the very least disappointed with Megami's character. Let me
I
know in
was.
the comments
I
below.
was
And if
definitely
you like
disappointed.
content like this, subscribe for more. And as always, thanks for watching.
Yeah, this was a good video. I like this video. Yeah. Most of the points I said it like right, if I would have just let the video play, he was gonna hit some of the main complaints that I had about Megami. But I like this video. Uh, I'll leave a link to this video inside the description. But yeah, same thing. I thought Megami had a lot of potential that he just was like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. And I keep saying him, but it's the writer, like the writer kind of like made the character. Well, did make the character, and I think the writer was actually getting fatigued, like getting sick and stuff like that. So he had to kind of like wrap it up. So that might have been one of the reasons too. So it's a lot of things that play part in there. Like if he was healthy, the writer was healthy, he might would have went a different route about it. But overall, I still love the Jujutsu Kaisen. I think it was I still Sukuna versus Gojo is still like top one, and not even close as far as like fights. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.